All right, guys, so welcome back. This week we are going to focus on one and two-step equations. So I'm going to actually start with kind of the rules. So in order for us to be able to solve a one-step equation, if you remember, you have to isolate your variable. So that is rule number one. Isolate your variable. And keep each side of the equation balanced. So we talked about if I had a marker in my hand and I have just one in my hand, I cannot put them like this because they are not the same. They're going to be imbalanced. But when I put it in my hand, it's balanced. One and one. It's balanced. So you always have to remember that your equation needs to remain balanced. So we have isolate the variable by isolate the variable and make sure the equation stays balanced. And then you're going to use the inverse operation. We talked about what the inverse operation means. An inverse operation means that I do the opposite. The opposite of addition is subtraction and vice versa. The opposite of division is multiplication and vice versa. Okay? So let's go ahead and write this out. Now I'm going to use colors for the first time. And then after that, we're just going to use regular dry erase. But I want to use colors for those of you who still need to use colors. And as I said before, using colors is fine. There is no problem. There is no harm in continuing to use colors. So this will be our number one. Hopefully that's dark enough. Let me see if I have a darker color. All of these Sharpies I have. Nope, that one seems dry. All right, let's try this one. There we go. That's a pretty decent one. Okay, so we have number one. Number one, I'm going to do X. This gray is a little darker. X. You gotta keep the cap on it to dry out. Plus. I'm just gonna go ahead and put my plus sign here, and I'm gonna put my equal sign here. What is going on with all my markers? This is not cool. Not cool at all. Some of my markers are dying. I've had these forever. They should not be dying. All right, so X plus 9 equals 13. And hopefully that yellow comes up. I'm not going to do too many of them just because that yellow is just really bright. So I have my variable and I have my constant and I have what everything equals. So the first thing I said to do is we are going to isolate our variable. So I need to get this this letter by itself. How do I do that? I need to get rid of whatever's on the same side as my letter. So whatever's on the same side as my variable, I need to get rid of it, which means the 9 has to go. How do I get rid of the 9? I do the inverse or the opposite. So if you remember, my yellow is positive and my red is negative. So I am going to subtract 9 from both sides. When I do that, I bring down what I did not use. I did not use my equal sign, but I did do 13 minus 9, and I did not use my X. So let's bring our X down. These two canceled. 9 minus 9 just gives me 0, so I don't need to do anything else with that. And then we have a positive 13 minus 9. So a positive 13, I need to take away 9. So my answer is going to end up being a positive number. So we have 13 minus 9 will give me 4. So my answer is a positive 4. Another way that we've done this, so I'm going to rewrite everything. I'll write it over here. I'm going to rewrite everything. This is going to be the exact same problem, but I'm going to show you once again how we did this in class when we first started. This is not something that we continued to do, but we did this when we first started. So you can make circles or you can do plus signs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do circles, just like little dots, okay? So how many dots would I need here? I would need 9 of them. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. How many do I need here? I need 13. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. So here's what you got to do. You're still doing the opposite. So I need to take 9 from this side, but I can't just take it and move it. I got to do the inverse. So I'm going to have 9 red dots on this side of my equation. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And whatever I do to this side of my equal sign, I have to do the same to the other side. I have to do the same thing to the other side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Because remember, we only did 9, not 13. We did 9. Then I take then I zero pair them out. So this yellow and a red, yellow, 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 red. So that means I have nothing on this side except for my variable. That's all that's left. My equal sign, I still keep that. I do the same thing over here. I zero pair them out. 1, 2, yellow and red, yellow, red, yellow, red, yellow, red, yellow, red, yellow, red. Then I look at what do I have left? 1, 2, 3, 4. So then my final answer is 4 yellows. That's what I have left. So if you need to do it this way, that's fine. You cannot do it this way forever. And I know some of you will say, well, I just know that 4 plus 9 equals 13. That's true. But you need to go through the steps. Because when you get into two-step and multi-step equations, you're not going to be able to just guess what that variable is going to be. You need to actually do the math. So you can do the math this way, or you can do the math this way. But either way, you have to do the math. So let's look at what this will look like when we are multiplying or dividing. So adding and subtracting, it's a lot easier to do it this way. But for multiplying and dividing, we're not going to do it that way. We're going to do it the traditional way for multiplying and dividing. So let's do this the traditional way. So let's look at number 2. So the second one we're going to look at is 4x equals 16. This is a multiplication problem. If you remember, anytime you have your coefficient and a variable close to each other, what you're actually saying is I am multiplying this number times this letter. So this is always a multiplication problem. What is the inverse of multiplication? Based off of what we said earlier, the inverse of multiplication is division. So I'm going to divide both sides by 4 because I have to get this variable by itself. You have to isolate the variable. So we cancel those out. I bring down my x. X equals 16 divided by 4 gives me 4. You also need to make sure you remember your rules of addition. Your sign rules. So if I have 2 positive numbers, my answer will be positive. If I have two negative numbers, my answer will be positive. Remember, same sign positive, different sign negative. Let's look at another one. We're going to look at division this time. This is our third one. We're going to do x divided by 5 equals 13. I'm going to move this number over just a little. This board is not staying still for me. Okay. So a fraction is what? A fraction is division. What do I do to undo or use the inverse of division? I am going to multiply. Oh, that's a marker to top to my marker. So what am I going to multiply? If I need to isolate my variable, I need to multiply both sides by a specific number. Getting this variable by itself means that this has got to go. The 5 has to go. So when I do that, those two, they don't necessarily cancel each other out. They turn into a 1. 5 divided by 5 is a 1. So you'd have 1x. And remember, we no longer put a 1 in front of our variable. It's assumed. So then we just bring down our x. And then we have 13 times 5 is 65. Make sense? Hopefully that makes sense to you. Let you look at that for a second just to make sure you get it. So I showed you one way to do the addition and subtraction. I'm sorry, I showed you 2 ways to do addition and subtraction, and then I showed you how to do a 1-step for multiplication and division. So in the next video, we're going to jump to 2-step equations. Now, remember, this is just review. It's nothing new, okay? And I'll see you guys in the next video.